TV umpire to director, we have a review. Can you rock and roll it for me, please?
Welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll It, the podcast where three Indian guys with beards, none of whom can run a mile in under 10 minutes, all seek to make real estate for long form content more viable in the cricket media landscape. And if you don't like us, you should probably keep your opinion to yourself because we're probably going to be mayor of your town very soon. Now, today we're going to be doing a deep dive into the career of another Indian with a beard, and that is Mohammed Shami. We considered doing a series review of the Australia India T20Is, but unfortunately, there were only three completed T20Is. We do have another Indian with a beard, Yash Jha, who's done a very nice takeaways from that series. So please watch that if you would like to on our platforms. There's also been some really good content around the Women's World Cup, where there's an entire podcast on India's victory in that World Cup. So please check that out as well. But today we're going to be discussing Mohammed Shami because it's been 2.5 years since he's played Test cricket for India. He hasn't played any cricket for India since the beginning of the year. The selectors' official word is that they would like to see more from him after injury before considering him. Shami's own point of view is that he has played 4 first-class games, bowled more than 100 overs, taken quite a few wickets as well. So let's start there. Let's start in the present. And Sid, I'll ask you, do you think the selectors have been fair to Shami or should he have been considered for the home test against South Africa?
Before selectors, I think you've been unfair to me without without giving me a fitness test. Like with Shami, you have you
I
have
actually thought about that, but
ah,
it didn't fit into my intro, so I had to just say that you can't run a mile in under 10 minutes.
I think most of us will be able to, or we'll just about make it in 10 minutes, a
I mean,
mile.
I saw the reason I said that is I saw a video of Zoran saying that he runs a mile in 12 and a half minutes, which I think
Because
even for me would be slow.
he's also running for other things. But yeah, I can totally understand if Shami is not happy because the last time he played for India, he did great in that Champions Trophy ODIs, and since then he has now started playing first class cricket. But and I mean, he's a Test player who's always been who's performed for the last 10 years at the top level. So you will be unhappy if you're left out, but I can also see the selector's point of view. Especially, I think it started with the England tour, where I think they kind of knew that it would be a very rigorous tour, and the demands, especially with Bumrah only playing three Test matches, the demands of that tour were going to be big, especially physically. So they perhaps, and also Shami was not 100% during the IPL, if I remember. So they went without him, and they did okay. So Siraj clearly was completely fit and grew in esteem as a fast bowler. Bumrah, whenever he played, he was very good. And in India, you usually need only two fast bowlers. And over the rest of the this WTC cycle, India have only one away series where India will need to play more than two fast bowlers. So I can see a selector, looking forward and saying maybe when the next round of Australia England tours come, we need somebody with experience. We don't want to be in a situation where again we are blooding in Anshul Kamboj type, somebody who like we're giving debuts to people on those big away tours. So I can see both points of view. If Shami feels it's unfair, I can empathize with him, but selections are generally not there for fairness or unfairness to the players, but for the best interests of the team, not just today, but also 2, 3 years down the line.
Yeah, KK, I guess
Yeah,
one
and
interesting thing is that Shami hasn't been named in in any of the India A squads either. And India A has played quite a bit of cricket recently. They've just, in fact, lost to South Africa in the second unofficial test. Do you think that the selectors have just made a decision to move on from Shami? He's almost 36 now. Um, Akash Deep is, of course, younger. He's his Bengal teammate. And they have gone with Akash Deep. I think Siraj and Bumrah were always going to be in India's squad, but they've gone with Akash Deep over Shami. And like I said, not even naming Shami in any of the A teams, either for white ball cricket or for red ball cricket, does that tell you that the selectors have just decided to draw a line under Shami's career now?
I think so. I think uh, because they have over the last few months identified a group, right, of outside of Bumrah and Siraj, they've identified Prasidh Krishna and Akash Deep in Test cricket, I think, and Harshit Rana also in the mix, more in white ball cricket, but probably also in and around that group in Test cricket. So these
And
three,
Arshdeep
and
Singh and
Arshdeep Singh, of course. Uh, so having since they have this group, I think they've decided, so what they want with Shami is probably to see him play, if not an entire season, but like, a run of matches where he's playing consistently. And then, okay, if he doesn't break down and if he looks fit and quick also, and, all of that, then maybe they'll think about, can we recall him at some point? Do we need to? Is he still better than these guys whom we pinpoint? Significantly better, so that, them playing and improving and getting to their peak, uh, against that, what Shami offers on, in a very like present day basis, whether that is better or worse, maybe they still haven't completely decided that. But I think, looking at the fact that they have this group, uh, they've probably moved on. I
Yeah,
think I
okay,
think
let
they'll I think they'll maybe, like, in case in case these guys they play enough and then they still fall short of expectations at some level, where they're like, no, maybe we have to find someone else. Maybe then Shami comes back into the conversation, if he's still fit, if he's still performing and everything. But yeah, for now, I don't think they're looking at bringing him back unless something happens in this group that suggests they're not, the players who should be like playing bowling in test matches or white ball cricket consistently.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Shami's entire career because it's been an excellent career, 64 tests, 229 wickets for India with an average under 30, which is, there are not too many Indian fast bowlers who have an average under 30. Let me just ask you, when do you first remember being struck or captivated by Shami's bowling? When was the first time that you actually felt that this is a guy who's going to have a great career for India? It could be something even before he made his debut, if you remember, or something in that first series. I think it was against West Indies. But when was the first time that you really felt that this was a long-term player for India?
he his first striking memory was in his first Test match. I didn't know whether he would become a long-term prospect at that time, but in his first Test match, I just remember the ball was reversing, but it was something new that I saw. He, he was reversing, like generally people when it is reversing they go really full and it is just swing. He was almost seaming it from a good length. He was bowling reverse swing on a good length, which created an illusion that it is because reverse swing goes so late. It created an illusion that it was almost like seam movement with the old ball, and he was still hitting the top of the stumps and getting LBWs with the reverse swinging ball. That was something new that I saw. But first couple of years, he was really raw. He because he his method had always been very direct: attack the stumps, bowl full, and try to get LBWs and bolts, and that's how he learned. That's how he was taught, and that's what worked for him on the club scene in Calcutta, where he was first discovered, having moved from a small village in UP to Calcutta, where he had nobody to live with, and there was this patron, as you generally tend to find these well-wishers of cricket who kind of identify a talent and then take them under their wing. And he used to like every time every time the team used to be down, they used to tell him, Shami, फाड़ दे, biryani खिलाएगा. And that was the kind of motivation they used to give him, and he was a big biryani eater at that time. uh, which kind of ties in into those first 2 years where his mode of attack is not holding a line outside off, but being very direct and attacking the stumps. And in doing that, he used to maybe because he was not that fit, his first few series, he was very profligate. I mean, in Australia, I remember, which was his first big tour. I think also in South Africa and New Zealand, he went at like 3.5 an over, but in Australia, it was like really, really expensive. 4.5 an over in every test match, which was like his first series 2014-15. But by the time India were now 2 years later ready to tour to put together another set of away tours, he was really fit. He had just gone through his spirit, his stubbornness was never in doubt because there are many stories about how he has bowled through injuries in domestic cricket. He's never let a coach down. Even when the coach tells him, "Listen, you are an India prospect. You can take it easy," he will not. If he's injured, he's played test matches through family emergencies. There was one test match when his daughter, I think, was in ICU, but he played that game and he bowled really well. So that spirit, that commitment was never in doubt. But he learned, he became very smart about it by the time India started touring from 2016, 2017 onwards, and it was a completely different bowler because that release, that beautiful release, the seam exceptional, absolutely upright, always made sure that if even if there is some movement available off the pitch, he will extract it, even though he's not as tall as some of the bowlers who generally tend to get seam movement. But once he became fit, added with that release of his, and he also learned the use of crease a lot more with experience. He was a lethal bowler from then on.
For me, it was the 2015 World Cup. I mean, the West Indies series, that debut series against West Indies. What struck me was how often like batters would kind of be stuck on the crease against him. He was hitting that sort of length so frequently, where they're not sure whether to go forward or back, and ending up not going anywhere, and then the ball just sort of skidding through and hitting the stumps or hitting the pads. And even at that World Cup, the way like he always seemed to be at or around the top of, say, middle and off stump. And he had a really, like Umesh Yadav also picked up a lot of wickets, I think. But I think Shami looked a level above in that World Cup. I'm struggling to remember like exact spells or exact deliveries he bowled, wickets he took, but just this feeling that he's always there at the top of, off and middle stump. And then, there was a long period of injury where I think he was out of the team for a year, maybe a year and a half. And then he came back in the West Indies in 2016. And there he suddenly looked like, an even better bowler because, like, until then, he'd had issues with his run up also, where he kind of, had these really long galloping strides. And so he'd shortened those strides. He looked like he's always a rhythm bowler, you'd say. But that rhythm was a lot more consistent once he had like worked out his run up, and once he was just arriving at the crease in that more balanced way, and then really just you know like zipping it through. And that West Indies tour, Ishant Sharma was also like on an upward curve by then. But you could just see that Shami, like his Sid has spoken about his length, right? But his line was he just made the batters play so much more often than all the other India fast bowlers who, the West Indies batsmen were leaving them a lot more than they were able to leave Shami. And he was creating so much more indecision. And so, yeah, that's probably my first vivid memory of thinking, wow, this guy is really, really good. And then after that was when, I mean, I guess like I also was covering a lot of home tests in the period after that, and then watching him operate at the ground, and kind of you could sense the energy whenever he came on in the ground, in the stadium, in the crowd. There's always this sense of anticipation, and the way like he follows through, and even if the batter has middled it, uh his hands would go up to his head, like he's almost beaten the guy, almost got his wicket. And I don't know, every ball was a kind of event. And so he created that energy around the field in his spells, especially in home tests. And I think that's the lasting memory I'll have, of his career.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think.
it was the big, sorry, Dustin, the big improvement with his fitness was that he was now much more consistent with the line, as you said. Earlier, he used to, especially in that Australia tour, every over there would be one boundary ball down the leg side. Now his line had just shifted to middle and off much more consistently than it had earlier been. And that ODI World Cup that you speak about was a tour when I think India had played a test series and a tri series in Australia just before that without winning a single match. And India's turnaround to make that semi-final and to make that semi-final almost unchallenged was down to Shami, Umesh, and Mohit Sharma, who just out of nowhere put in that great fast bowling performance.
Yeah, Shami actually in World Cup since 2015, he's the second highest wicket taker behind only Mitch Stark. He's got 55 wickets across three World Cups. That first World Cup, I think KK, some of the spell against Pakistan was the one where he took 4 wickets. He had a sharp bouncer, which I want to talk about also. Shami being someone who at 5'10" actually had one of the best bouncers I've seen from an Indian fast bowler. My own memories of him, as Sid said on his debut against West Indies, that I think it was a ball to Darren Sammy where he just bowled him through the gate and it was length and reverse swing coming back. And Shami was always such a devastating bowler at home. There's another really famous ball I remember from 2016 in Vizag, I think, where he broke Alistair Cook's off stump with just a lovely length ball, smashed the top of off and actually broke the stump. He was always someone who was a lot faster than you thought he would be, right? Because he's 5'10". He had a fairly decent run up, but it wasn't one of those run ups where he sprints in. One of the words people often used while describing Shami was skiddy. And I'd like you to just maybe explain a little bit about what that word means, Sid, and why was he called a skiddy bowler, and why was that a word used to describe him?
I think it's almost what do you call that opposite words? She- uh, well, it's almost counterintuitive to call him skiddy because he's somebody who used to get seam movement almost every time, and seam movement is the function of the ball sticking into the surface. So generally, you will not be both skiddy and getting seam movement. What created that impression of being skiddy was because he was getting seam movement every time, the batters had to look hurried to react to that movement, which is what created that illusion of that extra pace. If he's bowling 140 and somebody who's bowling dead straight 140, Shami will always seem quicker than them and skiddier than them because we have only a half a second to see what has happened. And in that half a second, if there's even this much of movement, you just feel quicker. So that was the thing with him. Your point about World Cups is very important because he actually has a much better overall record in ODIs than in Tests. Although India needed him so much more in Tests, that's why he played only 108 ODIs. But if you just compare him to the average bowler that played in the matches that Shami did, his improvement over those average numbers is much better in ODIs than in Tests. Like for example, he averaged 27.71 in Tests, whereas the overall average for Test matches that he played in is 29.18. So it's almost like, you know, uh, almost there. And he's actually more expensive than the average fast bowler in those matches. But in ODIs, he averaged 24 per wicket, whereas the going rate in ODIs for fast bowlers that Shami played was 34. So he in ODIs, which is why I think this selection committee actually chose him over Mohammad Siraj, who had done nothing wrong when they selected the Champions Trophy team. He just tended to make a much bigger impact in ODIs, maybe because he's so accurate. He's always attacking the stumps, and in ODIs, the batters are more obliged to take more risk. He used to get more wickets, and whatever little movement he used to get, made him even more impactful in ODIs.
I think that point you make about the seam movement and the ball actually sticking in the pitch and gripping it. Uh, there were many times in his career where, he's like short for a fast bowler and everything, but he'd hit the deck, right? In a way that, got it to react, got it to like do something. And sometimes that was lower bounce than average. Sometimes that was more bounce than average. Often that was seam movement. Uh, and also of Also, I think that skiddiness was also a function of the height or the lack of it and the sort of length he bowled. So that combined to like create this illusion where the batter is, unsure of which way to go and therefore stuck on the crease. And so, that combined with movement or whatever, it hurries the batter even more, right? When you're on the crease, when you've not moved towards the ball or away from it to give yourself more time, you have less time to react, and that again creates that extra illusion of skiddiness.
And we tend to judge whether something is skiddy or slow based on the batter's reaction.
Always, yeah, yeah. And the bouncer that you mentioned,
Oh, yeah.
that he had a really good bouncer, was also like it was a skiddy bouncer, right? Came at a shallower angle because of he's not that tall. Uh, and yeah, and he was really accurate with it. Usually, the series against South Africa in 2019-20, where he and Umesh Yadav basically outbowled Rabada and Philander, and I think Norkia played a couple of games as well. Outbowled them comprehensively. One of the things that really stood out about how they operated was, yeah, they attacked the stumps a lot and they got a lot of LBWs and bowled as well. But they used the short ball brilliantly. They got a lot of wickets, especially with the new ball, uh, you know, and yeah, with a little bit of, good fortune that India were declaring late on day two, and they were able to kind of sprint in without pacing themselves because they knew this was a short spell this evening, and then tomorrow morning again we can come back with the new ball. They were able to do that, but the way they used the short ball in those spells was like really magnificent, especially in I think the Ranchi test, where I think Quinton de Kock and a couple of other guys got out to bouncers. So yeah, and that trajectory of Shami's bouncer also made it really hard to play. I can think of a couple of other instances. One was Mohali against England in 2016, and the other was that Perth test, which India lost 2018, but he got a fifer in that, and a lot of it was because of how well he exploited the up and down bounce with his short ball. So yeah, that was another really good weapon that he had.
Yeah, I guess the one thing about Shami's career, it's not so much a criticism as a curiosity, is that his numbers in India are actually better than in places where where you would think that seam bowling would be effective. He has an average of 22.1 in Indian Test matches, strike rate of 42.6, whereas away from home the average actually climbed to over 30. It corrects a bit if you check for 2018 onwards, it's about 27 away from home. But still, in places like England, for example, he maybe wasn't as effective as in South Africa, say. I do remember one sort of criticism or one observation of him around the 2021 tour of England, that he bowled what Nasir Hussain famously calls a pretty length, where he's beating the bat a lot, but he's not necessarily always getting the edge. Is that a fair observation about Shami, or did he correct that enough in the latter half of his career, getting the length right and getting the edges away from home? It's decent numbers, even I mean, it's excellent numbers in South Africa, fairly good in Australia. England is probably the one place where the average and strike rate is a little higher than you would expect. But do you think he corrected that enough, or is that a fair observation about him? And also, why do you think he was so effective at home? I mean, to have these kind of numbers at home for a fast bowler, strike rate of 40. I mean, how did he manage to, especially in an era when people said the pitches at home were just all square turners at times? That was one of the criticisms. How did he manage to pull off these numbers at home?
Yeah, England remains an anomaly in his career, uh, which is, I also noticed before when we was looking at it. I mean, I knew his numbers were not great in England, but an average of 40.5, especially on the kind of pitches that India played on in 2018 and 2021, it is anomalous. But I don't necessarily think there is a cause and effect relation between what he was doing and the results he was getting. I think it was more just one of those things. The sample size is actually, an average of 40.5 also includes the tour in 2014 where he was very raw and the attack was thin. And I think the first pitches for the first three tests were quite flat in that series. Uh, it's if we take out the 2014, he has bowled really well in England, 2018, 25, and 2021. People have acknowledged that there are packages where he's been unlucky, and I don't really see any change in his lengths. He was again around the top of off. It was just one of those things where he went through a period where he just didn't have the luck in those conditions. Uh, because I never saw a change in length from, say, in South Africa, or even in India, he could afford to be slightly fuller, but he's always been that kind of, if anything, over-attacking fast bowler than somebody who, for somebody like Ishan Sharma, that might have held true in his first half of his career where he was bowling just a little too short. But and also, I think in 2018 and 21, India had a deep attack, which means you don't need to get desperate. If you bowl a spell where you keep beating the bat, you know that somebody else might, the next bowler might get the wicket. It's not, it's when it's when you know that the next bowler might release the pressure or is not as good. That's when you tend to get desperate and try to bowl a little too full or go searching, as they say. And that is one thing that all these three guys, and I think Ishant also, uh, Bumrah, Ishant, Siraj, and Shami pride themselves on that we will not go searching. We will just keep, even if we are not getting our individual wickets, we will keep the pressure up for the team so that the next bowler gets the benefits, or whenever maybe I get the benefit when I come back for a new spell. But we are not going to give away easy boundaries. So I think that's something they were perhaps a little extra conscious of. I mean, Glenn McGrath never bowled too full, but because it was a deep attack and there was never a let up, he used to get wickets. So it's those two tours were just one of those things that are hard to explain. But coming to India, yes, he got slightly fuller. He could attack the stumps. Pitches are a little slower, which allows you to bowl straighter. I mean, if it's like a nice and quick pitch, the batters can close the face and score runs on the leg side, which is not quite possible or not that easy doing in India because the pitches are a little slower. So you expose yourself to an LBW or a leading edge if you try too hard to score runs on the leg side of the off stump. Or sometimes he used to even get slip catches from off stump if the batters played with the angle. So that was one of the things. And yeah, the pitches in India, he got. I mean, his best years in India were when India actually were playing on good pitches, right?
Yeah,
Uh, in South
2016 to
Africa,
19. Yeah.
yeah.
And he
Uh,
didn't play like the Pune test, for example, or all those turners in that period, the square turners. He didn't play those games usually, I think.
hmm.
Uh, So yeah, in that period, yeah, so it didn't quite coincide with the square turner period, Shami's India peak.
Hmm. That was, and there was Square Turner earlier when the Square Turners became consistent. It was when the team was young and they felt that they need to take a gamble. They had just lost an ODI series badly to South Africa, so they didn't quite,
Mm.
know how good they were. So they took a gamble, and
And
after
even that
that,
series, Shami was injured. Like he didn't play.
yeah,
Like it was
yeah.
Umesh and Ishant. Yeah.
Hmm. So once that was behind them, I think they would have at best one Square Turner, right? I mean, from once this period was over, once they had established themselves as a successful unit, till the time the WTC came in, India really, if there would be a square turner, it would be just one odd test match every year. So that was the period when Shami like really excelled, where he had this marginal utility over any opposition fast bowler in Indian conditions because he could attack the stumps so well.
So the point about like Shami's lengths overseas, it's been like labored a lot. And in England, so they last as in during the 2021 tour, they kept showing this graphic of the average lengths of all the fast bowlers, right? And yes, Shami's was a little shorter than quite a few of the others. But so there are two things about this. One is like Shami being shorter can actually hit the top of the stumps more often from a slightly shorter length. And two is Shami used the short ball a lot. He bowled a lot of actual short balls, either to push the batter back, to make his, fuller lengths a little more, dangerous, or for various reasons, he used the short ball a lot. He used the bouncer a lot. And all of that, if you're going to measure average length, and if you're going to measure average length of every ball someone has bowled, all of the short balls, everything is going to count as well, right? So that pulls your length back, your average length back. But I wouldn't say that his average length is the median length that he's the mode length, the ball that he's bowling most often necessarily, right? Uh, it's a mean, and it's kind of it's a deceptive measure. It doesn't actually say what it's trying to say. So if you measure only the good length balls and average those out, then maybe you can say, okay, his average length, if you want to put it that way, is like fuller or shorter or something. But that isn't the measure that was being shown during that tour. And so because because he went through all of this bad luck, so this narrative became sort of cyclical, right? And then it became an accepted truth because you had this one data point that you could use to say, hey. But even so, in Centurion, right after that, where India won a test match, Shami picked up a first innings fifer, which gave India like a very decisive first innings lead. Uh, Again, like he got all of his wickets from like good length balls or full balls. But in that match, I remember a graphic showing like 60% of his deliveries were pitching on the shorter lengths. Right. So that was part of his method too, to like, bang it in sometimes, push the batter back and all of that. And you add all that up, and his average length is going to look deceptively bad. I don't think that's the average length of his good length ball. And yeah, he went through a lot of bad luck, which is especially exemplified by that 2018 Oval Test. And he just kept beating Alistair Cook's bat ball after ball, like an absurd number of times. It's one of those really outlier kind of games where you're like, okay, you just keep doing what you do and hope that your luck turns. And that's what he did. He didn't go searching for wickets. He didn't try anything different, and it didn't work out for him that game. And similarly, on that 2021-22 South Africa tour, where Dean Elgar, you know, both Bumrah and Shami kept beating his bat so many times. And you can say various things. Maybe like, they should have, I don't know, like tried something else, like Australia tried to attack Dean Elgar's rib cage and like bowl to his inside edge more than his outside edge. And yeah, he had a terrible tour of Australia when they did that. But again, these are really micro criticism because they were bowling well and not getting his wicket specifically. They were getting other people's wickets. They were just not able to get Elgar out. So there were lots of phases of unluckiness in Shami's career, and all that kind of adds up to his away record, maybe not looking as good as his home record. And when you play at home, you're playing in pitches where you know exactly what to do. Your method has evolved to suit those pitches, to take wickets on those pitches. And then you go abroad, you play like three test matches or four, five, maybe. And then you don't go back to that country for 2, 3 years after that. So it's it's rare for like bowlers to of any kind to have better records away than home. Some of them do, but yeah, it's rare, and there's a lot of mitigating factors behind Shami's away record. So I don't see him having done anything process wise, especially from 2018 onwards. I don't see him having done anything suboptimal to leave him with those numbers. He was bowling really well. The numbers, the outcomes didn't quite, work out sometimes.
Also,
Yeah,
when you have
yeah.
Ashwin and Jadeja in your side, batters will try to kind of look to cash in on you and take more risks. So that also helps you get wickets at home, I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Ravik, there are a few statistical anomalies in Shami's career. The other one, of course, is this difference between the first and second innings. He started to be called second innings Shami because four of his six 5 wicket hauls have come in the second innings. He has a strike rate of about 44 in the second innings as opposed to in the mid 50s in the first innings. If anything, that again is a testament to his fitness, right? That he actually could come back in the second innings and bowl just about as well as in the first innings. For somebody who, as you said in the beginning of his career, there were some questions about his fitness. That, if anything, is a testament to how much he worked on it. This idea that he was, because there have been, for example, some questions raised about Bumrah in the second innings of late. People have looked at his numbers and seen that they haven't always been as good as in the first innings. Again, that might just be a statistical anomaly. But with Shami, it's a real proof that he could bowl at the same pace with the same intensity throughout the test.
Yeah, absolutely. The fitness and longevity and his ability to bowl long spells is again legendary. He was not somebody who was protected like other fast bowlers tend to be, just bowl a 4 over spell, come back after another hour, bowl another 3 over spell. He could bowl long spells. And the other thing in second innings, as it tends to happen, is more wickets tend to start falling bowled and LBW rather than outside edges. So it just adds to his most potent kind of weapon. So both, I think, both combined, it might have become a factor and not just a statistic anomaly.
Yeah. I think if you want a bowler for conditions where there's up and down bounce, he'd be very high up on your list, right? Maybe you might want one from one end, a taller guy who's going to get,
Bumrah.
uh, yeah, but like,
Bumrah you want for any conditions.
sure, but like, specifically for like, inconsistent bounce, maybe from one end you might want like a taller guy who's going to get guys caught at gully and stuff like that with balls that are rearing up. From the other end, you want Shami, like, getting balls to scoot through and like, uh, yeah, and he was so good at that. Like, I mean, like when he got going on a pitch like that, he was just unplayable. Like Vishakhapatnam against South Africa, um, yeah, or even that Perth's uh, test that I spoke about a little while ago, or Centurion in 2018, which I thought actually. So there's the thing. Sometimes outcomes and processes don't match up, right? Like in England, I thought he bowled better in England in that run of away tours than he did in South Africa, where South Africa was the first tour, and I think, they were still like getting to grips with, okay, how to bowl overseas, how much to attack, how much to
Hmm.
just hold their length and all of that. And I think Shami was straying quite a bit in during that South Africa tour, but he got that fifer in Joburg, and his numbers so for the tour, I think he ended up as the highest wicket taker in the series. No, Bumrah was the highest wicket taker. But yeah, he had a lot of wickets in that series as against England, where I thought he bowled better, but just didn't get the reward for it. Uh,
Hmm.
so yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
various
I
things
think
like that.
in that Centurion test, there was a ball he bowled to AB de Villiers, which just reared up from a length. It was kind of shades of Sreesanth to Jack Callis from 2011. So he had that ability to get the ball to bounce extra as well as sometimes to skid through and hit the stumps. If let's say you had a new cricket fan coming to the game now who's not watched Mohammed Shami bowl, if I were to ask you to tell him to watch a particular series where he would see peak Shami, either white ball or red ball, what is the one tournament or series that you would tell him to check out first and watch highlights of Shami? And when was peak Shami according to you? KK, you can start us off.
I mean, 2019 South Africa, I'd say, uh,
At home.
at home. Yeah, but you know what? I think like he became even better probably around the time of, that Adelaide test in 2020, where I thought in the first innings he bowled beautifully to like Steve Smith and didn't get any wickets. But after that, he was the last guy not out, but like, his arm got broken and 36 all out happened. Uh, he didn't play the rest of that series, and I feel like, he was probably peaking then, and injuries and all of that, ensured that when he was probably at his very best, he didn't play as many test matches. So I think peak Shami was, for me, I think that period from say 2022 to the 2023 World Cup, where I mean the numbers speak for themselves, and like that spell to if somebody is like, watching cricket for the first time and they're like, Mohammed Shami. Okay, who is this guy? Just watch that spell to Ben Stokes.
Lucknow.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I'm not yet verified. Somebody told me that the ball that bowled Ben Stokes actually swung after pitching,
Hmm.
which is one of these things that these bowlers who can make the seam stand up
Hmm. Like that
tend
Ryan
to
Harris
get.
ball
Ryan
did, right?
Harris,
Yeah.
Bumrah
Hmm.
did it 2, 3 times in the Test series 2 years ago.
Hmm.
So these bowlers who tend to get seam movement, who can get the seam to stand up really upright,
Hmm.
they tend to sometimes get that. Like bowlers generally get it after going past the stumps. These guys tend to do it even before it goes
Yeah.
past the stumps. So yeah, so even if like sometimes, although I don't know how possible it is for a batter to adjust to seam movement, but even if you have, through your instincts and through your training, it can again, end up at another line,
Yeah. I remember one ball Bumrah bowled, which was, I don't even remember who the
which
batter was. I think the seam was kind of scrambled before it pitched, and then it came out
stood up.
upright, like just, one of
Yeah.
those like
I think it
And the
was
random
a
events,
batter,
ball.
and then it swung.
I think it may have been to Mushfiqur Rahim in the recent
yes,
home
yes,
series against
absolutely.
Bangladesh. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So he actually, if it had just seamed in and kept coming in, I think he had it covered. And or maybe he would have hit on the outside half of the bat, not
Hmm.
outside edge, but then
Hmm.
it just started move away and took the edge. Yeah, no, absolutely, sir. The to 2023 World Cup and the Champions Trophy earlier this year, Shami was Shami was like really good. And Test series that, as KK said, that series at home against South Africa. And yeah, in New Zealand also, when India lost 2-0 at the start of 2020, he looked really good. But again, he didn't get the wickets, and India just didn't have that kind of depth for that series as New Zealand had.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 2018-19 or 2018 rather, 2017-18 South Africa would be another series, right? Where KK, as you mentioned, in Centurion on a track that the South Africans themselves later call more of a subcontinent track, he kind of kept India in the game in the second innings with a 4 wicket haul, bowled that delivery to AB de Villiers. And then, of course, in Joburg, which I always say is a bit of an underrated India win, it was a pitch which on till I think about day three was it was playing all sorts of tricks and they actually went off because they said it was a dangerous pitch. But suddenly on the last day, I think it was day four, it seemed to have actually gotten a little better for batting. And South
Yeah.
Africa
Yeah.
were looking like they
Mm.
might chase, I think it was the mid 200s kind of total. And then I think it was Bumrah who started making the inroads, but then Shami just cleaned up the tail, just bowling that stump to stump line and just running through the last 4 or 5 wickets, ended up with a 5 wicket haul. I also wanted to point out a few games from the 2019 World Cup. One in particular springs to mind is a game that India played against Afghanistan
Hmm.
in the 2019 World Cup, where it got very close for India
Yeah.
actually. They ended up
Yeah.
Yeah.
winning only by 10 or 11 runs. And it was Shami at the backhand who just came in and blasted out the last few wickets of Afghanistan and made sure India didn't slip up in that game, which at that stage, 2019 would have been quite a big upset. Afghanistan, of course, now a much stronger side. But in 2019, that would have been a pretty big upset right in the middle of India's World Cup campaign. And I remember Shami coming into that game at the back end and just being fired up. He was one of those bowlers who you would want in those kind of situations where the match is close. You want somebody who
Mm.
can just come in, bowl it at the stumps, bowl it at good pace. Again, I think he's underrated in terms of the kind of pace he could generate. He was constantly 140s, even could get it up to mid 140s. So that's another spell that I think people should watch if they haven't seen too much of Shami bowling. Um,
Would India have, if India had lost that match, would they have finished fourth and thus avoided New Zealand in the semi-final?
I think the even the other question is also like, looking back, should they have on that pitch that they ended up playing that semi-final on Old Trafford, should they have picked Shami instead of like Chahal?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a bit of hindsight.
Yeah.
Should they have picked him instead of an all-rounder, maybe?
Hmm.
But it's a instead of Bhuvi actually.
Yeah.
But not that Bhuvi did poorly.
Yeah. He bowled really
Uh,
well in the, yeah.
his performance in the 2023 semi-final also was good, if I remember.
Seven
When New
seven
Zealand were
for
threatening. He was New
Seven for
Zealand,
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
giving India
absolutely.
a scare, chasing 350. And
Yeah,
he came in around the 31st, 32nd over and then just completely killed the game.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's actually kind of strange, isn't it, that through two World Cups, 2019 and 2023, he was India's third seamer. In 2019, Bhuvi and Bumrah were first choice. 2023, Bumrah and Siraj were first choice. Shami only came in when Hardik got injured.
Yeah.
Yet he actually has more wickets than any of the other fast bowlers across those two World Cups. Was he a bit underrated, or was it just circumstance where? Because to be fair, Bhuvi and Siraj at that time in those specific years were also in great form. I don't think you could. I mean, 2023 was when Siraj had just taken the 7 for in the Asia Cup final. So it would be
Yeah.
hard to deny him his spot. But it's a bit, again, a bit of an oddity that the guy who was your third choice bowler ended up being the highest wicket taker in both tournaments for you.
I think the point that seem to make on every episode of this podcast is that if only India had a fast bowler who could hit sixes. Uh, so Shami, if he had been that guy, he would have played every match of all those World Cups. He wasn't that guy, and India didn't have some other guy, and therefore, Shami ended up so. Which is why Shardul Thakur started that World Cup, right? So it was either Ashwin who played that first game against Australia, and then after that it was Shardul Thakur. And so it was a combination of Shardul Thakur and Hardik Pandya taking on like the third fast bowler's role. Once Hardik got injured, they're like, no, we can't just rely on Shardul Thakur to bowl 10
They
overs in
did
every
try
game.
though. They did try, but then they realized no.
Yeah, and it was only then they're like, no, we need a guy who can bowl 10 overs, and therefore, okay, welcome back, Mr. Shami. And then, yeah, he had the World Cup that he had. So, yeah, that circumstance haunted him through all of his career as well. The fact that, that one fast bowler didn't exist, that mythical guy who
Hmm.
could bat at number eight.
Which we will again speak about when we do a retrospective on Siraj's career. Yeah,
Okay, let
because only
me.
Bumrah is the only one who says, okay, I walk in.
Yeah.
I mean, Shami did hit some sixes during the Lord's
Lord's
Test in
Test.
2021. That was probably his best effort with the bat. He was always game with the bat, to be fair. He wanted to go in there and
He
take the bowlers on, but maybe not someone who would want to defend 6 balls in an over to keep his number 7 or number 8 going for a bit.
he was entertaining, I'll grant you that. It was great entertainment to watch Shami bat.
And like
Okay, now let me. Okay, sorry, Kate.
occasionally, sort of out of the blue, he would play this back foot punch through cover point, and suddenly it looked like, a proper batter. But that was just the one shot he had, which, surprised you like out of the blue. Of course, he could like slog sixes every now and then. And otherwise, he looked fairly like a tail ender. But then randomly from out of nowhere, he'll play this back foot punch. So that's one other, batting memory that I'll cherish.
Okay, let me ask you guys to now do something as we wrap up that I know you don't like to do, but let's talk about maybe without necessarily putting a ranking to it, but where does Shami's career, if it ends here, stand among the career of great Indian fast bowlers? I think even though Bumrah's had a very short career, many people have him as one of India's best ever across formats. There's Zahir Khan, who of course had slightly bigger body of work than Shami, but Shami's numbers are much better than him in both Tests and ODIs. But Zahir did play significantly more ODIs and a few more Tests, ended up with 300 plus wickets. Then there's back in the day, I mean, I'm not going as far back as Kapil Dev, but you had people like Srinath and Ajit Agarkar, who was extremely good in ODI cricket. I recently watched a podcast with Damien Fleming, McGrath, and Gillespie. They all had Shami ranked among the top 2 or 3 of India's best ever ODI bowlers. I think if you put his test career in there as well, there's a really good case to make that post Kapil Dev, he's at least top 3 and arguably even top 2 among India's best ever bowlers across formats, seam bowlers.
Yeah, if you also include Zahir, you would be like top three. Bumrah, him, and Zahir Khan. Slightly above Ishan Sharma in test matches, and obviously streets ahead of him in ODIs. But Srinath also, he might edge out Srinath also. But although having said that, you never know what Srinath's numbers would have been if he was part of a attack which had like three or four fast bowlers coming at you all the time. But given the numbers that we have, yeah, top three. I mean, Bumrah clear of everyone else, and Zahir and Shami perhaps next to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd kind of go with the same thing. I think Zahir's peak was the thing that kind of, puts him in this top three, where for say around 2007-ish to just, to the time he walks off at Lord's uh, around lunchtime, just before lunch. So from that, in that 4 year period, like, he was probably one of the best like, he's not Dale Steyn, but he was, like one of the top two or three fast bowlers in the world in that period. And in a time when he didn't have much support, he had just really, young guys coming up, a rotating cast of support cast, uh, and Harbhajan Singh kind of a bit of a waning force even in home tests. Kumble had retired by 2008. So in that period, to have a peak in that period and to, like, keep India really competitive home and away, and, almost like, uh, you look at the attacks he was part of, and then you look at the results India got in that period, you're like, wow, that was,
Yeah, I think his artistry, yeah, clear of Shami, but there's also factor of longevity.
yeah,
Not longevity within a test match. Longevity within a test match. Your third spell of the day.
that's
Uh,
yeah, that's what I was
you
coming
know,
to. Like, yeah, if you want
yeah,
a guy, you know, so outside of that peak, Zahir was not as consistent. He had like periods where, his rhythm was really off, his pace was down a lot of the times. Before that county stint of his, especially, where, and that was a significant part of his career because he started in 2000, and until 2006, he was, you didn't know what kind of bowler would turn up on a given day. Shami's, initial sort of learning period was much shorter, and then, his peak was much longer, and, he performed home, away, everywhere, and yeah, he had the benefit of a deeper attack. So I put both of them kind of, you know, on a similar sort of rung behind Bumrah, and yeah, Srinath's uh, again, like, he didn't have that support, and weirdly, like, a very different kind of bowler to Shami, but again, a guy with a superb home record and, an away record where you're like, uh, could have been a little better. So yeah, I'd put Srinath probably just below these two guys, and Shami in that second rung behind Bumrah.
Yeah, I think maybe one of the reasons Shami, I feel, is a little bit underrated is in a sense he didn't lead India's attack for that long a period, because when he came in, there was Ishant Sharma, who was the most experienced bowler. For a while, Bhuvi was also considered one of the leaders of the attack after what he had done in 2014 in England. And then, of course, I would say 2016 to 2018, Shami was kind of developing into that leader of the attack. I remember particularly after that home series against England, which again I think was one of his really good series that he had. He was emerging into the leader, but then very quickly in 2018, Bumrah comes in and immediately has an impact. And by the end of 2018, Bumrah is already your number one and Shami is sort of the number two. So that's why maybe sometimes people don't look at him the same way that they look at Bumrah or Zahir, because these guys were very clearly the best fast bowler in the lineup and the leader of the attack. So maybe that's one of the reasons why he's slightly underrated, I would say. But if you look again at his overall career, there's so many series. And I want to end this by just asking you guys to maybe pick one ball that you remember. I've mentioned a couple like the ball to Cook, the ball to De Villiers. Are there any other deliveries that you remember that stand out in your memory from Shami that were really good memories that maybe people can go check out on YouTube?
mm, we have spoken about most of them. Like now we have to go outside of those, outside of this one to Stokes, outside the AB de Villiers one, outside the one to Cook.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I'll give people one there. I think one bouncer to Yunus Khan I can remember from the 2015 World Cup. So this is earliest Shami where he gets Yunus
Yeah,
Khan with a bouncer. That might be one. So there's a few. And yeah, I mean, he's one of those bowlers where, again, maybe we're struggling to remember specific balls again because he would just bowl great spells. And it wasn't always just about one magic delivery, right?
The,
yeah.
the, the thing I think that makes it hard to pick is that he bowled so many of those sort of balls that pitch off stump straight in, either take the outside edge or hit the top of off. He bowled so many of them, and from round the wicket to the left-handers or over the wicket to the right-handers. That was he could do both, and he could do both consistently and often. So it feels like it all blurs into this one, highlights
Yeah.
reel rather than like one ball standing out. So the Cook one, because the stump broke,
Hmm.
you tend to remember that more than say the other ones where this again, like he hit this, like there was just this aesthetic pleasure of watching the stumps cartwheel. I don't know if he hit the stumps in a way that made them cartwheel more than other fast bowlers, but always it always seemed to happen whenever he got a guy bowled. So I'm left with a kind of blur of cartwheeling stumps rather than one particular delivery where the stumps,
Yeah.
uh, did that.
He, d- he did leave me a little surprised sometimes when instinctively I would say not out, but the umpire would give it out and the replays would show that it's LBW. So he had the deceptive kind of ability to keep hitting the stumps.
Yeah, a few other spells that I can remember that people should maybe check out is I remember against Sri Lanka at home and maybe as away as well, but I'm remembering more at home. He bowled some very good spells in test
I
matches.
think
It
away
seemed, yeah,
in Palekele 2017 third test, second innings especially, both innings he got wickets. Second innings there was one spell to I think Karuna Ratne was at one end, and there was a night watcher at the other, and every ball looked like he's going to get a wicket. So if you can like find highlights of that, might be a little hard, but that's a spell that I really remember being one of his best. And it's from a series that people don't talk about a lot because India won it 3-0, but like it was unprecedented for India to win 3-0 away from home, like whitewash any team away from home over three tests.
And there was
And
never a question mark over
yeah,
whether India would win. There was never a session when it
yeah,
looked like Sri Lanka could challenge India.
yeah. And that series, I think, it's kind of underrated because of how dominant India were, but that dominance was kind of like it's a kind of taken for granted dominance. And Shami was really good through that series, and especially in Palekele, third test, which was a innings win where I think India made Sri Lanka follow on, if I'm not wrong.
I think Pandya scored 100, hitting
Yeah,
I
that's
think
the
three
one. That's
sixes.
the one.
yeah.
That's the
There's
one.
another statistical anomaly with Shami remains that he never took a 10-wicket haul in a match.
Mm,
His best match figures remain his
But
debut test. Nine.
but
mm.
neither has Bumrah. So I think that's more a testament to how strong India's overall attack is in this
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
5 to 10 years that nobody gets seam bowlers don't get a chance to take 10 wickets because somebody else always chips in, right? That's one of the in the sense the challenges that they have to try and get a 10 wicket
Yeah.
haul.
So Akashdeep, in that Birmingham test where India were practically playing a two-man attack, Akashdeep got 10.
Yeah, that's your best chance when you're not playing a strong enough attack to get a 10
Yeah.
wicket haul.
Or if you're a
Shami, yeah,
or if
again,
you're a
another
spinner, yeah.
test I wanted to point out was 2017 at Eden Gardens on a pitch that was seaming in a
Against
shortened test
News.
match.
Sri Lanka. Yeah.
Ba-
Yeah, against Sri Lanka, where I think India should have won
oh,
that test match
Yeah.
because
Almost, yeah.
I clearly remember this. This is a very vivid memory I have. I don't know if the delivery was from Shami, but there was a catch that Vridhiman Saha took, excellent low catch that was given not out simply because I think umpires at that stage, third umpires, hadn't understood the foreshortening of the image. And they hadn't understood this idea that it always looks like it's bounced when it hits the top of the gloves and then comes into the palm of the gloves. And it was clearly out, given not out. I think it was either a Shami or a Bhuvi ball where that was given not out. Shami also against Sri Lanka, the thing that I remember about him, and maybe he sussed out Sri Lanka's batting in this way, he would bowl a lot of short deliveries for them. And I think you'll find deliveries where Sanjay Manjrekar famously says, why have a short leg or a gully in Indian conditions? You're never going to get a wicket there. I'm pretty sure you'll find a few Shami wickets caught at short leg, caught at gully, especially against Sri Lanka because he would target some of their batters with the short ball. Sometimes he would go short to the tail as well. He could be nasty with that bouncer. I remember one, even as recently as 21-22, where he got a Sri Lankan tail ender out, caught at short leg, I'm pretty sure, fending. Very rare dismissal to get in Indian conditions, and for that matter, by an Indian fast bowler. So these are a few other great Shami memories. Anything else you guys want to leave us with before we wrap up on Shami?
Just that we might,
Mm,
he might be back, and we might
yeah.
regret making this episode. But yeah, he's not going to he's going to like get more fired up if he ever listens to this.
We- No, no, we are not considering him done. He's got every
Yeah.
right to keep pushing uh, first three to the A team and then back into the innings.
Yeah.
And I just want to make a segue here. I was watching this India A South Africa A games, and I saw three specialist batters in India's top five or top six who average in the 40s in first class cricket. I don't think it has ever happened. It was B. Sai Sudarshan, Devdutt Padikkal, and Rajat Patidar. Uh, I don't know. I mean, I would at least, I mean, I can understand not playing him in test matches, but Sarfaraz Khan should have been in that side and not completely written off. Just because you cannot, I can understand one guy who has anomalous numbers in first class cricket, but you can see he's really good. But three of them in your five, because sixth is Jurel. So three out of five in your second test 11. I don't know what that says about domestic cricket and where you hold it in your regard.
Well, Padikkal is coming off some very good scores for India, we should point out. So, anyway, we'll do a full, we can do a preview of the India South Africa series in our next podcast. Let's not waste all our topics of discussion on this one. We'll end this, yeah, and I would say that there's every possibility Shami could come back. Remember that the guys he's competing with are people who don't necessarily have the greatest fitness record either. Akash Deep
Yeah,
is also coming back from injury. Prasidh Krishna has had his injury problems. Arshdeep and Harshit seem to be quite fit, but if there's an issue with Akashdeep, if there's an issue with Prasidh, then we could well see, either with form or with fitness, we could well see Shami come back. And he's 36, I think, now. So he is getting up there in age, but there's every chance if he keeps doing what he's doing in first class cricket that he could come back. And so then we'll maybe revisit this podcast. Maybe that time we can get him on when he actually retires.
You spoke of, well, I'll just finish you spoke of like the, one ball to remember him with. I think the fifer he took in, I think it's not the last Ranji game, but the one before that. There's a bouncer to like a lower order guy, which is just, like unplayable. So if you can find that somewhere, you should be
yeah.
able to find that somewhere. Watch that.
It's very KK to go left field and find a ball.
No, but
At
that's
least,
actually a good
at
idea
least he
because
didn't remember
Because
one
yeah.
before he became a test bowler.
okay, so that's been another episode of Rock and Roll It. Stay tuned. We will most likely be previewing the India South Africa test or maybe discussing a different topic, but we'll be back very soon. And stay tuned and let us know what you remember about Mohammed Shami in the comments. Thank you.
TV umpire to director, we have a review. Can you rock and roll it for me, please?